You had a plan, a real one, not a fantasy, an actual plan. You knew exactly what you needed to do. You could picture it. You could feel what it would mean. And then nothing happened. Not because you're broken, not because you're weak, but because your brain ran a program in the background, one you didn't authorize, one you didn't even notice, and quietly chose something else for you. Scientists call it the comfort bias. And here's the part that should unsettle you. It's been making decisions on your behalf for years. By the end of this, you're going to understand exactly how it works, and more importantly, how to stop letting it win. High Voltage Chapter 1. The Motivation Myth. You don't have a motivation problem. You have a biology problem. Most people think the solution is simple. Just get more motivated. Just want it badly enough. But wanting has nothing to do with it. Here's what actually happens inside your brain. Motivation is a feeling, and feelings are weather. They arrive and disappear on their own schedule, completely indifferent to your plans. But your brain is running a different calculation entirely. It's not asking, what do I want? It's asking, what costs the least? Every single time you delay, scroll, or drift toward what's easy, your brain doesn't flag it as failure. It marks it as success, energy preserved, risk avoided, mission accomplished. That's the trap. You're not losing to laziness. You're losing to a survival system that was built for a world that no longer exists. So here's the real question, one most people never think to ask. What would you do differently if you stopped waiting for a feeling that was never designed to lead you? High Voltage Chapter 2. The Comfort Trap. The thing that feels like safety is slowly making you fragile. Rest is necessary. Nobody is arguing against that. But there are two kinds of rest, and most people can't tell them apart. There's rest that restores you, and there's comfort that numbs you. One leaves you recharged. The other just creates silence where your discomfort used to be. Here's what nobody tells you about avoidance. The more you practice it, the better you get at it. Psychologists have a name for this: hedonic adaptation. Every time you step back from something difficult, your brain lowers its tolerance for that difficulty. The threshold drops, and what used to feel manageable starts to feel impossible. This is why a single difficult conversation can feel heavier than it did 5 years ago. Not because you've gotten weaker, because your brain has gotten more practiced at stepping away. You felt this. You've had days where doing almost anything felt like too much, and you couldn't explain why. This is why. When was the last time you chose comfort and actually felt better afterward? High Voltage Chapter 3. The Identity Loop. You're not who you are. You're who you've been until now. Here's a sentence most people say without ever questioning it. This is just who I am. Stop. Because that sentence is doing enormous damage. And it sounds like honesty when it's actually surrender. Neuroscience is not subtle on this point. Identity is not fixed. Identity is a pattern. And patterns are built by repetition, not by truth. Every behavior you repeat carves a deeper groove in your neural wiring. Repeat it enough, and your brain stops treating it as a choice. It becomes a default. It becomes you, not because it reflects who you truly are, but because it's familiar, and familiar feels like home. The person who says they're not a morning person hasn't discovered something deep about themselves. They've just repeated late mornings until the brain built a highway to that behavior. Highways can be rerouted. That's not a motivational metaphor. That is literally biologically true. How much of who you call yourself is actually just a habit that was never chosen? High Voltage Chapter 4. The Fear Beneath the Logic. Your excuses are too intelligent to be honest. This is the chapter most people won't want to sit with. Because fear doesn't always look afraid. Sometimes it looks perfectly reasonable. It says, the timing isn't right. I need more preparation. I'll be ready next month. It builds a case. It uses real words, real logic, real sounding arguments. And the whole time, it's protecting you from one thing: finding out what happens if you actually try. Your brain's job is threat detection. And to a nervous system wired for safety, the unknown isn't just uncomfortable. It registers as danger. Growth looks identical to risk. So your brain does what it was built to do. It stops you. Eloquently. You've been here. An actual window open in your life, a real one, and you filled it with reasons. And then the window closed. Not because you weren't ready, because your brain decided that opening it was more dangerous than staying exactly where you are. What is the one thing you've been rationalizing for months? that might actually just be fear with better vocabulary. High Voltage Chapter 5: The Compound Effect of Small Courage. You don't need a transformation. You need one uncomfortable act. Here's where everything changes. Big change does not begin big. It never has. It begins with one act of discomfort, done once when every part of you wanted to wait, and then repeated, and then again. This is exposure-based neuroplasticity, and it is one of the most powerful mechanisms in the human brain. Every time you do the thing that scares you, even a small version of it, your brain logs the experience, updates its threat model, and recalibrates. Oh, that didn't kill us. Interesting. And the next time, the resistance drops. Not dramatically, just slightly. But every time you repeat it, it drops again and again, until the thing that once felt impossible becomes something you do automatically. Your brain rewires in the direction of your behavior, not your intentions, not your plans, your behavior. You send the email. You show up once. You say the thing you've been holding back for so long, it started to feel permanent. None of it feels like a turning point in the moment, but something underneath is moving. What is the smallest act of courage you could take today? Not to change your life, but to change what you believe about yourself. Let's be honest about something. The version of you that waits to feel ready, that version never ships, never starts, never becomes anything different than what they already are. But that's not who you actually are. You're someone who just spent the last 7 minutes trying to understand yourself more honestly. That's not nothing. That's the beginning of everything. The version of you on the other side of this doesn't have more motivation. They don't have better circumstances. They just stopped asking their brain for permission to move. Your one micro practice this week. Pick the thing you've been avoiding. Not all of it, just the first step. And before your brain builds a case against it, before you open your phone, before you find a reason, do it. That's it. One action. Repeated, because your brain doesn't need an overhaul. It needs evidence. Evidence that you are someone who moves when it's hard. You already are. Now you just have to show it.